Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today we're going to be talking about Jasmy because I saw some news just posted really recently that Hara was talking about on Twitter, and really interesting stuff because I still am trying to figure out exactly what their kind of meaning is there. But if what they're talking about is kind of what I'm thinking, this could be another ridiculously bullish set of news that we are seeing come out of there. And so I wanted to kind of talk about it with you guys right now. Obviously, if you have any comments, questions, anything you want to clarify, things like that, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. But I just want to bring this to you guys so you kind of are knowing what's happening and seeing what's going on in the Jasmy system. So anyway, let's go ahead, dive right in. And first off, let's start with talking about crypto bubbles. And crypto bubbles is looking overall, we can say green on the day, but I'd say that's primarily because of four kind of major gainers. We've got, the world token, we've got ENS, we've got virtual and FET. Those are kind of the ones up big. We have a couple up decent amount, but just looking at the screen, right? We can see mostly red here, right? And so, I would say more coins red than not. It's just we have a couple large gainers that are kind of buoying the rest of the market. And so overall, nothing too crazy. A lot of just chop going on. We can see Bitcoin down 1.7%, ETH 1.5, Sol 2.3. So overall, we are seeing kind of a pullback in a lot of the larger coins, but not a big deal. Like I said, the market remains in kind of a fundamentally strong position. Things are looking really good. Not a whole lot, at least in my opinion, to be concerned about. What we can see looking at the Jasmy chart is some pretty interesting stuff, right? We had kind of this initial breakout right here, where we kind of had broken some of these resistance levels that we'd been seeing basically ever since the beginning of October. We were able to break above that. We had a couple momentary dips below, but primarily we've been able to turn this resistance into a support, and things have held. Since then, we did see that kind of recent large move from that exchange listing in Korea. Since then, we have kind of seen some pulls back a little bit, but we've almost kind of put if we were to go and make another level of support here, it would probably be something kind of like this, and you can see some support here, some previous resistance levels here, and then kind of same thing if we look a little bit further back in December. So overall, things looking pretty good for Jasmy. We are kind of kicking up into this level of resistance here. We have broken it before. It was looking like we were going to turn it into a support momentarily. We saw, and then we kind of broke down below, and then we broke above again, but haven't been able to hold it. And so I do think probably the next thing that we're going to be looking at here, we're going to be looking to make a sustained run above kind of the 2.5 cent range. Once we do hit that level, then and if we can kind of keep a decent bit of volume on this and turning it into a support, then I think we'll be ready to kind of make the next run up. If we go look at the daily, we can see kind of longer term these yellow lines. It's almost like we're seeing a reverse wedge, right? We can see that things kind of started really consolidated, and as we've gone on, the moves have just been kind of wider both to the up and downside, right? And so not necessarily it's kind of good and bad news, right? Because the lows keep getting lower, but the highs do also keep getting higher. And so a little bit of a double-edged sword there. I do think that we're kind of seeing a relatively short-term uptrend. If we do, I'm hoping that we can kind of continue the short-term uptrend, because recently, it's granted, this has only been basically since the U.S. election results were kind of figured out. Since then, we had kind of been in a little bit of a downtrend. We do see, not totally, because we have seen some higher highs here, but it was kind of following a downtrend. Recently, we have kind of departed from that, and it's turning into an uptrend. So overall, it's we do probably want to see it hold above this kind of trend line here. But overall, as I've said, Jasmy looking good. We're not really in kind of the peak altcoin season yet, so the fact that we haven't seen a ton of movement isn't necessarily a massive concern, at least in my opinion. Obviously, when you see things like this happen, obviously you want it to move, particularly when other things are moving. But even if we just kind of look at what we've seen over the past year, we were sitting even at the beginning of this year at less than a cent, less than half a cent for that matter. We basically immediately gap up to this range, and then we obviously see a pullback down to about this 1.6, 1.7 range. But ever since, we've pretty much kind of held in this range. We've never really broken below kind of the 1.5 cent range, where we started to see kind of a little bit of resistance as we were moving our way up. So I think as long as we hold that, looking from a macro perspective, look at this, and let's see, let's even just look at it from a weekly perspective, right? Let's really zoom out big picture here, and we can see from a macro sense, we really haven't ever seen prices below 1.5 cents since we've seen that move up, and we moved all the way up to about 2.8. So I mean, obviously we saw a little bit of a pullback here, but this is looking really, really good from a macro perspective, because there's this whole massive level of like gains that we've made this year that we have not really seen any sort of return to. And so this has all just been kind of like a consolidationary period, and now it's looking like we're on our way moving up. Obviously, we're kind of breaking out of these lower highs that we had seen here. This is definitely a fairly strong level of resistance, as we have seen. We are currently below it, but moving to the upside, next we're probably going to be looking at about 3.4 cents range, and then after that, probably like between the 4 and 4.5 cent range. After that, I think we're going to be really seeing Jasmy move relatively quickly, because just like we've seen some gaps to the upside, we've also seen similar gaps to the downside if we start to look backwards here, because basically if we break above this 4 to 4.5 cent range, we haven't really seen any level of major supports prior to kind of on this way down. Obviously we can't see any further back than 2022, but it just kind of basically free fell. And so once we kind of break this level, I mean, I guess we'll have maybe a little tiny bit of liquidity here at the 7 cent range, but after that I do think things are going to move pretty quickly. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing here on the chart. We can see on the weekly we're sitting kind of at about center. If we go back to daily, we can see, looking and kind of sitting in like the strong area, but not too bad overall. I mean, things are looking pretty good, overall. We can see, there was some major spikes kind of coming into like the June range where Jasmy really made its biggest recent run. We have not seen volume come back like that. We've seen kind of volume come back a little bit compared to some of these lows back here, but still, I mean, definitely some volume still needed to come. So that's kind of what we're seeing here on the chart. I did want to move on to the next piece of news, where we listened to Hara talk about essentially kind of like these future lockups happening for Jasmy. Now, part of it is talking about lockups and essentially kind of constraining supply, but the other, and in my opinion, more important part here is Hara talks essentially about taking it and like making an insurance type of product using Jasmy and JANCTION coins. And so, or I guess I should say Jasmy coins on both JANCTION and the Jasmy network. And so this is obviously, insurance is a massive area. It looks like they might be trying to do like a crypto insurance type of product. And obviously, like, there's no real like mainstream product that has any sort of crypto insurance. And so he kind of explains, how that would work, of like, if you wanted to insure certain things, you would obviously have to post collateral and lock that up, and then they would essentially cover in the case of any sort of losses. Now, obviously, insurance is massive money. These guys play in the billions and trillions sometimes, depending on kind of, what levels of insurance we're doing, especially when we get into like the, financial system. Unbelievable amounts of money going on in there. And so if Jasmy is able to kind of break into this insurance market and this insurance sector, a huge market opportunity is being opened, particularly when, there is kind of a level of concern, and I do think there is kind of a pending demand for people within the crypto industry to insure their assets in case of loss, right? And so I know for me, like, if I had assets that particularly maybe, if I'm trading like DGen stuff or something, maybe I'm not going to care so much about it. But if I've got, some long-term hold stuff that I've got just sitting in a cold storage wallet, and from Jasmy's perspective, like from their risk assessment, the risk profile is relatively low. I could imagine myself essentially like having an insurance policy for that type of stuff. I would imagine it to be relatively inexpensive just because the risk profile is so low. But that's something for me where it's like, if my wallet got drained, I think having an insurance or some backup there would be fantastic. Obviously, for some of the like crypto and blockchain maxis, that does kind of fly a little bit in the face of some of the ethos of blockchain, right? I mean, it's very much like hyper libertarian in a sense of like, you're on your own, and if bad things happen to you, that's on you. If good things happen to you, it's on you. And it's very much like, libertarian maximalism almost. I don't necessarily disagree with it. The only thing I do disagree with from like a more pragmatic or practical perspective is the general market is not going to tolerate that, in my opinion, particularly right now where so many governments across the world are very, I don't want to say like a nanny state, right? But they're very involved with like social programs to kind of help people from this type of stuff happening. I kind of have a hard time believing that you're not going to mass adopt, or you're not going to mass onboard people into crypto without these types of things. These types of things, in my opinion, are almost kind of like prerequisites. And so I think the fact that like Jasmy is starting to like look forward and see some of this type of opportunity is insane. Because if they can pull, you know, a decent bit of like the market share here, this could be unbelievable, you know, for all of our coins and our price targets and all that type of stuff. And so something that I just wanted to kind of let you guys know about, bring to you on the channel, just so you guys, you know, kind of were aware of that. And if you wanted to look into it on your own, I'll probably repost it on my channel. So if you want to look in the description below and just go to my Twitter, you'll be able to find the video there, just so you guys can find it easily. But definitely a really interesting video. Obviously it's all in Japanese, so I didn't want to like kind of show the whole video, but if you are wanting to look through it, definitely I would say I'd recommend checking it out, because it is definitely like some interesting things going on there. So anyway, hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and subscribe, because it really does help me out with growing my channel and doing all that type of stuff. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything, like I said earlier in the video, please just feel free to put those in the comment section below, because I do try to read and respond to all of those. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and comments and opinions and things like that. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.